Red Devil sports fans, welcome back. It has been a while since we have done a podcast episode. Took a little break, a little winter refresher away from the podcast game, but nonetheless, Speak of the Devils podcast is back, and we are ecstatic for some great content. We're going to bring you some great content throughout the duration of this semester and into the future. Guys, it is really great to have you back. And as always, we are sponsored by the Grazery. Sorry, Grazery, forgot to mention you in the beginning. We are going to do an episode at the Grazery once we get back on campus. That is a promise. So, guys, how we doing? How's the break been going? What's been going on recently?
Well, in terms of sports, not so great for me in Philadelphia. I know Dom can say the same thing, but other than that, it's been great. I've just been working, at the family business, just getting some work done, preparing for the semester, things like that. Got some cool ideas for my own podcast and for this podcast later, and that we'll talk about with our interview with Justin a little later, which will be very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a little bit better in the sports world, but the Colts losing was not exactly a plus on that radar. The Celtics are keeping me alive at this moment, and that's about it, even though half the team's on the COVID list. But, same as Sam, just working in a warehouse, just trying to stay busy until school gets started back up.
Love it. Well, Sam, I'm right there with you. And the Sixers did not get James Harden. So a little bummed about that as he's on his way to Brooklyn. I would like to get Ben Simmons off of this team as soon as possible. I will drive him anywhere. I will personally take him there. And looking forward to starting senior year. Not by the means that I had always anticipated, but it is what it is. I'll accept it at this point, but excited to get back to campus in March.
Yeah, Dom, I'm in the same boat with you in two separate ways. One, still waiting on my season. We haven't gotten a decision from the Centennial Conference yet, but I am totally with you when it comes to Ben Simmons. Although I did not want James Harden, strictly because I heard today that they were going to include Tyrese Maxey in the deal with Ben Simmons with James Harden, and I was not a fan of that. But all turned out fine. James Harden is on his way to Brooklyn right now, as we found out a couple hours ago on my way home. But I'm just glad. I just need Ben Simmons out of the Sixers uniform. I can't stand it anymore. He had a terrible game last night, but the Sixers look great. Otherwise, I mean, what more do you want other than it's just Tyrese Maxey looks fantastic. Joel Embiid is having an MVP caliber season thus far, and
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yep,
we'll get to that in our top five. But hopefully, our plan is by the end of this semester, if all goes according to plan, we will be actually recapping Red Devil games. Dickinson Athletic games coming up here in the future. Hopefully, if spring sports decide if they're able to go through this spring semester. So that's definitely something that we are looking forward to here at Speak of the Devils podcast, and obviously Red Devil Sports Network, because that is what we do. It's what we're passionate about. Dickinson Athletics.
Yeah, I would say too, even at the very least, hopefully we can cover some inter-squad scrimmages and even just some type of competition in Carlisle, just getting something going, talking about some Red Devil athletes would definitely be a good change of things. And I think something all three of us are excited to do.
Definitely.
But I guess take a couple minutes and touch on what we missed, over the past, month or so in the NBA. And since that's really the only sport aside from the NFL, and the NFL being weekly, makes it a little tough to talk about on this podcast. So we'll go to the NBA real quick. And I kind of want to just stick to James Harden for the few minutes we have in this segment for you guys, since you are Philly guys. I want to start off by saying that as a Celtics fan, I wanted you guys to get James Harden. I really wanted the 76ers to get the out of shape James Harden and lose although not fitting your system, a talented point guard and a great young talent that you would have lost.
I mean, Ben Simmons, it all was dependent on what the trade was going to be. I honestly feel like he got fat on purpose so that Houston would want to get him out of there.
Exactly.
And he's as soon as he goes anywhere, he will whip back into shape and look like the James Harden of old. Because he's still playing. He's not playing MVP caliber, but he also just didn't. Well, he's in Brooklyn now, but he did not want to be in Houston.
Mhm.
And I just don't really understand. I don't know what's going to happen with the Nets. You have KD, who has been out with COVID related. He was on the COVID list. Kyrie Irving, I saw a report that the Nets don't know where he is or what he's doing. And now they have James Harden, who is, although I did want him on the Sixers, I thought a pick and roll with him and Embiid would be electric. But James Harden is a head case as well. So James Harden and Kyrie Irving on the same team is going to be very interesting for Steve Nash, the head coach, to try to deal with there.
Dumpster fire.
This is his first year as a head coach, and now he's got to deal with two generational talents that are both arguably like just out of their minds. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. My whole thing with James Harden was like, to be honest, I was kind of indifferent on whether he was going to come here or not. I wanted to give up Ben Simmons because I'm tired of Ben Simmons, and it would have been great to have the offensive caliber guy like James Harden. I mean, the pick and roll, like Dom said, I mean, would just be unreal with Joel Embiid and James Harden. I was not particularly fond of how Harden came into the season looking like he was about 300 pounds and about to play left guard for the Houston Texans. But I just did not want to give up Tyrese Maxey because I've loved everything that I've seen out of him so far. And I guess the Brooklyn Nets gave up four first-round picks, and that was more than the Sixers were willing to offer, apparently, which is fine by me because I did not want to give up Maxey in the slightest. So have fun in Brooklyn, James Harden. We'll hopefully we can still win a championship without you, but
yeah. My one thing with this trade is I really don't understand what the Nets were doing. I feel like they were the biggest loser in this trade, and it's by quite a bit. They currently are stuck with less depth, have a fat James Harden and an MIA Kyrie Irving. I really don't know how that adds up to an NBA title, but you also got to think about it too. They lose Chris LeVert, they lose Jared Allen, and they lose Taurean Prince, and they lose all their picks coming up, including second rounders. They gave up trade swaps, and I mean, Houston made out like a bandit in my opinion with all their picks. They got Victor Oladipo in this trade as well. So I feel like they made out very well. They made out very well. Cleveland randomly comes in out of left field, and same with Indiana, comes in out of nowhere and somehow adds on to this trade. But I think the Nets are by a mile the biggest loser. And if they don't win a title in the next 2 years, this trade might be the biggest bust of all time.
I just want to think about, I don't really want to think about it, but I am thinking about it, is the brainiacs that are sitting in a room for hours on end, drawing up a 4-team trade with 85 players and picks involved, and how what was the criteria that needed to be met in order for that trade to be met. It's like, okay, yeah, the Nets want James Harden, and then the Cleveland Cavaliers are involved, and then the Indiana Pacers are involved, and I'm just thinking like it must be an absolute nightmare being a stat guy, a player eval guy, one of the front office guys for an NBA team. Because anytime a big trade like this is made, a big blockbuster deal, it just blows my mind. How why couldn't they just trade picks and players? And I don't have to go take half the league in order to make get a trade done. So it was just kind of bizarre to me to think. And you're absolutely right. If Brooklyn does not win, that is going to be a disaster in Brooklyn for the next few years.
I got news for you. They're just not going to win a championship in the next 2 years. They have,
not if Kyrie Irving is in hiding.
their team right now is just going to be a dumpster fire. Like they have Kevin Durant, right, who's currently not playing, but when he comes back, he's going to want the ball. Assuming Kyrie Irving does come back, he's going to want the ball. And James Harden comes in, he wants the ball too. So I don't know how you have any kind of chemistry there with guys both like pure score, all three of them pure scorers. I mean, I guess Kyrie would be able to facilitate a little bit, but he's a head case right now, so it doesn't make sense to me. This just doesn't make sense to me at all. I mean, I don't know why the Nets would give up so much just for such a little chance at a championship within 2 years. Like, it's just not going to happen with the guys that they have right now, and I can't believe that they can't recognize that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have left to say about it is, aside from the big three and Joe Harris, can anyone on the Nets team even dribble a basketball? I mean, I don't even know what.
I don't even know if they have enough guys.
They have open spots on their roster now. I think they have 3 open spots on their roster now, and They have the mid-level tax exception to do anything with that. I really have no idea what they're doing. I feel bad for Steve Nash because he is in a mess, and it's not going to be his fault. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me on this.
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting trade.
I think we covered just about everything we could about James Harden there. We'll move on to our interview with Justin Farrell, and then we will see you guys again for our top 5 NBA MVP candidates in the third section.
Healthy, not boring. That's not just the motto of the Grazery, but it is also their promise to you. Visit Grazery today and indulge on fresh Mediterranean-inspired salads, sandwiches, and soups, among other great options, on a menu that serves both breakfast and lunch. Eat in or take out. No reservation needed here. So hurry on down to 156 West High Street, just yards from the campus, and enjoy a fresh and feel healthy meal today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Red Devil sports fans, we are joined today by our fearless leader in RDSN, the assistant athletic director for marketing and administration, and the head of RDSN. I nailed that, I think, maybe. Anyway, we have Justin Farrell with us today. He has been behind the scenes coordinating a lot of what's gone on for what you have all been hearing the past semester. So it is a pleasure to have him on today and, talk on screen. So Justin, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. And yep, Dom, you nailed the title perfectly. Well done.
Yeah. All right. So Justin, I guess we'll, even though we all know who you are and deal with you frequently, I guess we'll give everyone a little intro. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you went to school, how you came, full circle back to Dickinson.
Yeah. So, my name's Justin Farrell. Grew up right outside Philadelphia. Was a 2013 graduate from Dickinson College. Came here as a soccer player, actually, in 2009, and ended up playing football for Coach Bro and Coach Patrone. Spent 3 years on the football team as a kicker and a punter. Earned a spot as a walk-on. While I was here, I was actually on what was really the ground floor of RDSN. We were doing radio broadcasts back then, if you guys could actually believe that. Found a passion for that and really enjoyed it. So upon graduation, got involved with 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia. Spent 2 years with them, or just about 2 years with them, in the promotions department. Also got a chance to work at Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia during my time there as a production assistant. So I was balancing the radio and professional television markets, trying to find my niche there, and really decided at some point, about 2 years out of college, that I was looking for a change. And Ursinus College happened to be hiring for an assistant director of athletic communications, and had always enjoyed college athletics, loved being a college athlete, and got an opportunity to work at Ursinus. Was primarily responsible for video, live streaming, cutting up highlights, creating highlights with my background from Comcast Sportsnet. So got into that. Spent about 6 months at Ursinus, moved on to Eastern University, where I took over as the sports information director for about a year, and then got an opportunity to go to Salisbury University, which, for those who don't know, is probably arguably one of the perennial powerhouses for Division III athletics, most famous for their lacrosse program, but have exceptional programs all around. Spent 3 years there, got a master's while I was down there in business administration, and then this job opened here at Dickinson, and put in for it, and got a chance to come back home to really where it all started, at my alma mater. So in a roundabout way, that's the short version.
There you go. I mean, obviously, we're incredibly grateful to have you back here at your alma mater and to work with us. I wanted to ask you, you wear a lot of different hats in the athletic department. You are obviously assistant athletic director, and then you also run RDSN. What kinds of things like you wear, or sorry, just gathered myself. What kind of what would you say is your favorite part of your job that you have now? Is it more on the RDSN side or maybe an administrative side?
So there's a lot to love about my job. I really enjoy learning about the administration side. My ultimate goal is to become an athletic director and run my own department. But I would definitely say I love running RDSN. When I was at Eastern, I ran Eagle Vision. When I was at Salisbury, I ran the Seagull Sports Network. So now to come to the Red Devil Sports Network and help run that. One of my favorite things is really paying it forward and giving back to the student athletes and the students at each institution I've been at and helping them prepare for their careers. So being able to work with you guys, and the ones that even aren't on this podcast, but being able to work with the students and student athletes and give them the best possible athletic experience and representation as we can, teaching them about the industry as much as I possibly can. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but being able to help them in their journey and achieve what they want to achieve in their careers is really important to me. And I would say that's my favorite part about it. So
transitioning into where we're at now, obviously you're in your office right now, but we are all in, our respected living rooms or offices or wherever we may be. So how has your job, your focus, your day-to-day shifted, from a remote setting?
Yeah, it's funny, it's really different. COVID has definitely changed the way that my job is run. Obviously, there's no sports to broadcast, so there's no live streams to set up. There's no games to promote. But in a way, that was really a unique challenge and a unique opportunity, because I think it gave me a great chance to really become more creative in what we did on our social media channels, what we did with the website, and use that as a tool to help promote the college, promote the brand of Dickinson Athletics, and in particular promote RDSN. I think there's a lot that RDSN does that people don't realize outside of just live streaming games. I don't think they realize the amount of work that goes into preparing a broadcast, the social media aspect of it, the marketing side of it, and to be able to speak with alumni, to get podcasts off the ground, something that I know a lot of you guys had interests in, share different stories, do coaches spotlights, do fun things on social media. It really kind of opened a new door, I think, for RDSN and for Dickinson Athletics as a whole, and gave me a chance, like I said, to be more creative, to reach a broader audience, and really give people an insight into what marketing and promoting a collegiate athletic department really entails.
Awesome. And so I kind of want to transition a little bit to this coming semester that we're leading up to, not too far away from now. I know for myself, I've been involved in RDSN ever since my first year seminar, and that's how I got involved, was freshman year, my first year here. And I kind of want to know, with this new semester and people actually being back on campus, beginning with first years and sophomores, how they can possibly get involved, or what they need to look for, what kind of interest they need to have for them to actually, RDSN to be a perfect fit for them, or anything like that.
Yeah, anyone who's interested should just reach out to me. You can find my information on the website. Just email me, farrell@dickinson.edu. There's information on the website right under game day if you just go to the Red Devil Sports Network. But if you just have an interest in sports, RDSN is for you. You don't have to want to be a communications person. You don't have to want to pursue a career in sports. This is an opportunity for you just to try something new. If you have an interest in photography, if you have an interest in videotaping games, this is an opportunity for you. You just don't have to be a broadcaster. If you want to be a marketer, this is an opportunity for you to learn how to market sports, to work in communications. I think RDSN, it's a sports network, but it's so much more than that. There's so much more to sports. And it's one thing that I've always tried to teach the students that I've gotten to work with is there's so much more that goes into sports than just players, coaches, general managers. Like, yes, that's what's talked about on ESPN and NFL Network and MLB Network. But, when you really look at an entire college athletic department? What do you think promotes tickets and sales? What do you think tries to promote corporate sponsors? There's a whole other side to this industry that people don't think of. So if anyone who just has an interest in that, RDSN is kind of a microcosm of what the sports industry is. And anyone who has an interest or a passion or is just saying to themselves, hey, I want to try something new, RDSN can offer you that opportunity. You don't have to have an athletic background to be involved in RDSN. I had a lot of my SGSN workers, most of them weren't really high school athletes. They just came to Salisbury and knew there was a lot of sports and that we were the group that covered them. And as I always tell the students that I've gotten to work with at every college I've been at, life's pretty good when you work in sports. You get paid to watch sports. Like, that's a pretty good gig. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but you get to spend your game days watching your teams compete. And to me, nothing beats that thrill.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a dream job of mine. But I wanted to ask you if there are any big plans for RDSN that might interest the people to come join, maybe a sneak peek into something that you've got planned for us. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so obviously we have this podcast. We have a brand new podcast that started up. First episode was unveiled yesterday, the Ladies in Red podcast, featuring Phoebe Prettyman, Kristen Acasella, and Sydney Engler. So there's those opportunities. We're going to be coming up with some pretty special tribute videos for our senior athletes this year. So if you're interested in video editing, that type of stuff. And then we're going to try a few new things. There was a video that went out right before the end of the semester about kind of a national title mindset and starting to cultivate that mindset here a little bit more. And, we're going to try to get on a little bit of a social media campaign around that. And we'll do a few other things, but those are kind of the big things right now. Hopefully a return to play is in the not too distant future, and we'll get some pretty creative content going with that, and how we're going to come back from this entire pandemic, which I think will be stronger than ever. I don't think Dickinson has always bounced back as strong as possible, and I don't foresee that ever changing. So, we're going to play off a lot of that, a lot of the history of Dickinson. So we'll have a lot of creative content coming out. But I think we're definitely on the right track right now with the podcasts continuing into the future. Obviously, I know Dom's a senior, but, had it not been for that interest, I don't think we'd be where we are right now, sitting on this podcast. So it really, RDSN is what I think the students want to make it. That's why it's a student-run organization. I'm just here to, help in any way I can and help guide you guys. But, I think the passion that the students bring inspires a lot of what I want to do out of this office and how we want to promote Dickinson athletics as a whole.
So what was it about the campus, the community, the athletics, the town of Carlisle? What was it that brought you to become a Red Devil?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was recruited by a couple different institutions. Only two other Centennial Conference schools I actually went and looked at. And when it came down to it, I had three places in mind. It was Loyola University was recruiting me, but I found out pretty much where I was going to fall on that depth chart and decided that was not a viable option. When I was told basically for 4 years you would spend the best you would ever be is maybe the primary backup as a goalkeeper, and that kind of ruled out Loyola. And it was really between here and Catholic University. And, I came here, or I met an assistant coach actually at a Gettysburg camp of all places. And he talked to me about Dickinson. It was not on my radar until I met him. And spoke with him, came out, met the former head soccer coach here, Brian Redding, during preseason. And then ended up meeting Molly Bogle, who was my admissions, was covering my area. And, when they say people really make the place, that is such an accurate statement for Dickinson College, because everyone I met that day was so welcoming that I just got this different feeling on this campus than I had on any other campus. The people that we bumped into around the campus as we were going, everyone saying hi, everyone, asking how we were enjoying the day, et cetera. Really made a difference and an impact on me. And after an overnight visit here with the soccer team, I really knew leaving that day that this is where I wanted to be. But then that, the overnight visit, watching them play Gettysburg, seeing the passion from the fans, I knew this is where I needed to spend the next 4 years of my life. It gave me every opportunity. It opened a lot of opportunities for me, stuff that I never thought. I came in here thinking I was going to be a history major, minor in economics, go on to law school. Just that was the story that it was written, and then got here and discovered a passion for sports that I never even thought of. And Dickinson just presented so many opportunities to me that, ironically enough, my brother followed me here 2 years after me. He came in 2011 when I was a junior. He played lacrosse for Dave Webster. And then my sister came in right after I graduated in 2013. So she was 2 years behind my brother, and she played field hockey here. Was in a sorority, and both of them have gone on to great careers. And we kind of became a Dickinson family just out of happenstance. But it all started with the people here. The people that recruited me, the people that I dealt with at admissions, they really laid the foundation for, what I saw this place as. And, and it became home to my family for almost a decade. And then 2 years after my sister graduated, they brought me back. And as I told Coach Patrone after they hired me, you guys were bored without Farrells for 2 years on campus. Like, you needed one of us back here.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, that's really it for me about RDSN, but I do have one quick question for you. As a Colts fan growing up between the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady era here in Massachusetts, I really just want to know what it's like being a Cowboys fan in Pennsylvania, around Philadelphia. And I also want to apologize for you being a Cowboys fan.
It can be a living hell sometimes. It especially didn't help when I was, I'm not going to really count being a Cowboys fan when the Cowboys were winning Super Bowls in the 90s, because I was 4 when they won their last one, most likely. So I was really coming up with being a Cowboys fan through the Dave Campo, Chan Gailey era of coaching, when Troy Aikman was on his way out, and we were rolling out guys like Chad Hutchinson and Ryan Leaf and Rodney Peete, I think, played quarterback at one point for us, Quincy Carter. It wasn't until Bill Parcells took over as the Cowboys head coach that things actually started to get better. And but it was tough growing up in Philly, being a Cowboys fan. Grade school was not easy. High school might have been worse. But just got to college and decided I think I might keep my head down on my fandom until I'm a little more comfortable around people. That didn't help. In fact, it only might have made things worse with some of my teammates and roommates who were as anti-Cowboys as you could possibly be. It certainly was challenging, but and this past year didn't help anymore. But I think hopefully we'll bounce back in the right direction next year.
Well, as I sit here with my Eagles Super Bowl champion flag and my Carson Wentz jersey, I will tell you that it was brought upon yourself. All this flack that you get from and deservedly so. But that's all I got. And I can't really talk too much since the Eagles were just as bad, if not worse, this year. So,
and it is funny. I do root for every other Philadelphia team. It's very bizarre. I just do not root for the Eagles. But I'm as diehard of Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers fan as they could come.
That is about the most absurd logic I've ever heard. And every time I meet somebody who says that, I just can't wrap my brain around it. But anyway, moving on. I just have one more last quick question for you, Justin. And it's a phrase that, we all know at Dickinson, but I think is kind of strayed away in the past couple of years, but, still means a lot to me because of people like Coach Q. And that is, wearing the red, always wearing the red. And it's big in the football program, as well as, many other programs around campus. So, what does wearing the red mean to you?
That is such a great question. I believe that should be the only tagline of the athletic department.
I agree.
But wearing the red to me is such an in-depth question. But for starters, it means that there's a bond between everyone who's worn that uniform. That there's something special that if I say wearing the red to you, and I know that if I wasn't in this job, but you and I bumped into each other after you graduated, we're both in the professional field, and I find out you work at Dickinson or went to Dickinson, and I said always wearing the red. That's an immediate connection because you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a promise that you make to others, and getting a little emotional, I guess, thinking about it. But when I say always wearing the red, and I say that's a promise that I'm making to people that says I'm going to get done what you've asked me to do, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, whether that's in the professional field and in my personal life. When I was an athlete here, that meant lift started at 6 a.m. I was showing up at 5:30 in the morning to be ready. It was something that ran really deep inside of you, that you were going to put your best foot forward, no matter the circumstances. It didn't matter what the circumstances were, if the odds were stacked against you. It meant you were going to bring your best every day. And that was the promise you were making to your teammates, to your coaches, to the athletic department, to your peers. It was representing something bigger than yourself. I wasn't the most important thing or person on that football field. This was right here. That everything I did represented this. So that's what wearing the red means to me. It means that promise that's running, deep inside all of us who have gotten a chance to wear that uniform. That regardless of what the stakes are, what the circumstances are, we're bringing our best, and we're going to give our best effort 150% until we can't give anymore. That's what that phrase means to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful stuff.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And I think I just want to add something quick and just say that applies to RDSN as well. We try to, instill the same stuff in this organization and with all the broadcasts we do and the podcasts we do and everything. So everyone looking to be, even if you're not on a team yourself and don't get to experience that necessarily, this team here in RDSN is also a place where you can find that same type of wearing the red bond, wearing the red perseverance and willingness to drive and do something and accomplish something.
RDSN is, the 26th team of Dickinson athletics. It's there with every program. I always tell people, and I got to know one of my former colleagues at CSN was an intern with the Baltimore Ravens when they won a Super Bowl. Everyone from the team to the interns to the broadcast crew to the groundskeeping crew got a Super Bowl ring because everyone plays a role. And that's the same way RDS, you might not be on the field with RDSN, but you have to tell the story of what's going on. You have to deliver that message to people. And that's just as important as, in my opinion, that's equally as important as the people that are walking onto the court and strapping up football helmets, et cetera, to get on the middle field. Because without us, parents don't see their kids get to play if they can't make the game. So all the practice that goes into preparing for a broadcast, all the preparation with setup, with research, showing up early, getting home late, that's equally, it's part of the deal when you sign up to be with RDSN, but you're wearing the red just as much as the players are.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, thank you so much for everything you do for RDSN, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys having me on, and look forward to having you all back on campus.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
Have a great night, guys.
Okay, now moving on to our final segment, we are going to be discussing each of our respective, we'll see, top 5 for our NBA MVP predictions for the end of the year based on what we've seen so far and what we can expect to see for the rest of the season. But first, we have a word from Sam.
All right. Complex is Complex is something no coach or athlete wants to deal with, which is why every team aims to keep schemes and execution simple so success is easy to achieve. That's the game plan used by the Grazery right here in Carlisle. Simple ingredients that are fresh, healthy, and above all, delicious. Healthy, not boring food that is not just good, but good for you, made from only the healthiest and simple ingredients. So come on in today and enjoy a great meal made simple at the Grazery, located at 156 West High Street in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
I cannot wait to get some Grazery as soon as we get back. But moving on to our next section, my number 5 NBA MVP prediction, my number 5 in that list is going to be up for debate based on what we've seen so far, but Luka Doncic, I think he has not performed to the caliber we have expected to see thus far. But then again, he doesn't have a whole lot of he doesn't have a great supporting cast with him down in Dallas. But I think once he gets going, once he gets hot, he's going to be an MVP caliber player.
Yeah, I'll go next. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm gonna go with at my number 5. I'm gonna go with LeBron James. I mean, every year LeBron James is going to be in the MVP conversation no matter what. So I got him at my number 5. He's going to be going for his second title with the Lakers this year, along with Anthony Davis. And it's just he's the best player in the league right now. It's hard not to have him in your list.
All right, so my number 5, and this one's partially because I believe it, and also partially because I feel horribly bad for him, and that's Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal has been on a tear to start the season, and he has had possibly negative help from his team. But I mean, he dropped 60 points in a loss, and every other good performance he's had so far this season has been in a loss. And I think I've only watched the Wizards play defense in a single game. So I'm going to shout out Pop, a former RDSN member, and say I'm sorry about the Wizards.
C-Pop.
Shout out C-Pop. Anyway, all right. So moving on to number 4, excuse me. I have Steph Curry, who is back, and he looks like the Steph Curry of old, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say.
There you go. And Sammy and I talked before this segment, and we said that we were going to be as unbiased as possible, and I think I'm going to hold true to that here. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum in my number 4 spot. He's off to a hell of a start. I mean, he looks great. He's definitely carrying that Celtics team right now, and I'm scared to go up against him just like I am every year as a Sixers fan. So Jason Tatum's at my number 4.
Honestly, you and I are both going to be unbiased, but there's honestly 2 things we're going to disagree about that, and I'll get to the second one a little bit later. But the first one's going to come up with your LeBron pick, and then I'm going to pick Anthony Davis for my 4, and it's only because I think Anthony Davis is outplaying him. And either one of them is a reasonable candidate so far this season, but Anthony Davis has looked a little more impressive to me. If you look at his numbers, they're just slightly better than LeBron's. Even from the 3-point percentage, he's still outplaying LeBron in that category. And even coming into this year, I thought Anthony Davis was going to be the MVP. So I'm just kind of sticking true to my belief and what I've seen so far from him. And even though LeBron hit that Steph Curry no-look 3 last night, I don't think it's quite enough to push him over the edge for me.
Fair. My number 3, while we're on the Lakers topic, is LeBron, and I'm a confirmed not a LeBron guy. Yep. But I think if Anthony Davis and LeBron are putting up similar numbers throughout the entire year, they're going to give it to LeBron. So That's why he's my number 3 right now.
Yeah, they'll automatically give it to LeBron. I mean, I couldn't agree more, and I'm not a LeBron guy myself either, Dom. My number 3, I'm going to go with Luka Doncic. I'm looking for a big year out of him. I mean, he's one of the best young players and even just one of the best players in the league right now. He's off to again pretty good start with the Mavs, and they look like a decent team. And Luka Doncic is just unbelievable. So I'm looking for him to step up in his 3rd year as a NBA player.
All right, so my number 3 is where I also disagreed with Sam. He said Jason Tatum. I say Jaylen Brown. He is somehow outperforming Jason Tatum, being far more efficient, better shot selection, doesn't take fadeaways at the end of regulation, and saves me a little mental sanity. So, and just being a personal Jaylen Brown fan over Jason Tatum, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. But at 3, as you might have expected him to be higher on my list since I'm putting a Celtic on here.
Fair again. I think Jaylen Brown's having an incredible season. And so my number 2 is Joel Embiid. His numbers speak for themselves and put up 45 and 16 last night. And last time at the time we're recording this, and single-handedly kept the Sixers, who were playing pretty terribly besides Embiid, in the game, and has, he's averaging like 25 and like 11 or something crazy like that, and a bunch of blocks and steals and rebounds. So got to go with Joe at number 2.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I'm also going to go with, at my number 2, Bradley Beal. I have loved everything I've seen out of him so far. He absolutely put a hurting on the Sixers the other night. Dropped 60, still lost though. But that's not what the MVP award is about. The award is about being the best player on your team. Making the playoffs shouldn't matter. I mean, he's clearly carrying his team, and he is one of the best players in the league as of now. So I'm going with Bradley Beal at my number 2.
All right, so my number 2, and the biggest shock is that I'm putting him over Jaylen Brown, is Joel Embiid. And this comes much to my sadness, but he's been on a tear. Don talked about his stats. He's just a little over 26 and 12 in terms of points and rebounds, but he's just been so consistent this year off the start. And he's one of those players, especially if he's extremely motivated to carry the team. He's very unstoppable down low. And even if they play the Celtics, who they have the size mismatch to, he's just a player to watch out for in almost every matchup, because very few teams have a big who can battle with him down low.
Agreed. The Celtics still scare me no matter who's on their team. We never seem to be able to play them well. Anyway, my number 1 is Jokic, the Joker, Nikola Jokic. He has been playing out of his mind. Sam, you're shaking your head. He's averaging a triple-double every single game, and you just look at him and you just don't see MVP, and then you watch an entire Nuggets game and you're like, wow, like he is the heartbeat of this team, as well as he's just a good player. He stands in the middle and he just facilitates everywhere, or he scores and he gets the rebound. It's like they don't do anything without him. So he's been really impressive this year. That's why he's my number 1.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He's a great player and all. And you're also right. I haven't watched a full Nuggets game to really just break down Nikola Jokic's gameplay. But I take Joel Embiid over Nikola Jokic every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I think that Joel Embiid is going to win the MVP this year, and that's why he is my number 1. Joel Embiid, obviously. This wouldn't be a Sam Glavine list if there wasn't a Philadelphia player on the list, especially at number 1. So I'm going with Joel Embiid at my number 1. He has been the heartbeat of the Sixers team thus far this year. And I think, and he single-handedly won the game for them the last night against the Heat in overtime. He's been fantastic. The thing that's impressed me the most thus far this year is his conditioning. He's just been in shape the whole time. He's going to be in shape the whole season. He just looks a lot better. His mentals are all in check so far this year. I'm very excited to have Joel Embiid on my team this year, and that's why I think he's going to win the MVP.
Sam Glavine, our unbiased reporter over here.
Yep.
The Wentz Levin reporter. He is right, though. Joel Embiid has been the opposite of James Harden in terms of shape. But you're wrong. Nikola Jokic is definitely the number 1 candidate so far. He's averaging a triple-double as a center, has 10.5 assists, 11 rebounds, I believe, in 24 points. And if you just watch him, he's what you'd imagine every old rec player to be like, except able to compete at the NBA level. Like, he just does everything in the almost slowest, laziest looking fashion, but he's unstoppable so far this season. And it's honestly fun to watch because it's just old man style basketball, but almost to perfection.
Yeah, before we sign off here, Jokic is like that guy at the Y that's just, he played college hoops and he's just way taller than everybody and has just really long arms and just is way better than everybody. So that's Jokic, except in the best league of basketball in the world. So that gives you some perspective. He's that guy that dominates at the Y, but instead of the Y, he does it in the NBA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. That's
All
it
right.
for us. Sign us out, Dom.
Yeah. So that was an interesting episode of Speak of the Devils podcast. We are getting back into the swing of things. We look forward to what we have in store for you guys the rest of the semester. Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time. Roll Devils.